Hey, welcome back to another episode of Tune Quest. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at Tate, How I Feel by Fred again. This is a house banger, right? So we want to turn it into this kind of piano piece that we can play, but we also want to have elements of that house piano sound and feel. So we're going to look at that in this tutorial as well. It's going to start like this. Okay, this is part one that we're going to look at. Let's start with the left hand. First, we start on an F major chord, right? And it's going to use this arpeggio pattern where you start on the root and then you play the fifth and then the octave and then the fifth. Root, fifth, octave, fifth. Twice. And then we're going to do the same pattern on an A. Like this. F, A. F, A, and then it's going to go down to an E minor. 4 times. And then back up to the F. That's the left hand. Now the right hand, the melody goes like this. Right? That's the main melodic idea that we're going to start with here. So we have a vocal melody, right, that Fred again has sampled. To create the kind of melody that we have here, we're going to use this flicking effect, where you flick from one note to the next, right? So first you flick from the D to the E, and then you flick from the C to the D, and then go D, C. Right? Flick, flick, land. Technically, this flick is called a grace note. To have a grace note, you need this other anchoring note, which is going to be a G up here with the pinky. Right? So you're going to flick, and you're going to play the G at the same time, right? Flick, flick, land. Right? I think this is quite an effective way to play this particular melody. Check it out with the left hand. So first we play the F, and then you do it over the A. Like that. That's 3 times. Now we're landing on this E minor, and basically the melody is going to go from that C down to this B. With the thumb there. Now it's going to play that B because we're on an E minor chord, E minor triad, and look, B is the 5th of the E minor triad. So that means that it's a chord tone. Now that's one of the secrets of melody. Melody uses chord tones of the chord that is the context. Okay? And then it goes like, it's like this, right? It does this kind of cool piano thing. So what is that? That's very similar to what we already looked at. So you have your pinky up here on an A this time, and you're doing this grace note first, from the D to the E that we already looked at. And then it goes between these 2 fingers. Right? Right? It's just a really cool piece of language that I wanted to show you, right? And you could just experiment with this piece of language throughout the whole progression. Check it out. Right, so that's called improvisation, right? It's taking different ideas and just experimenting with them and improvising with them and expressing yourself with them. That's how I like to teach songs, right? Especially Fred again songs, because Fred again is just like super far out. He just exemplifies like improvisation and having fun with music, right? So that's part one. Yeah. Now, let's get into the house section. So what we're going to do is we're kind of going to take the same chord progression, but we're going to play it in a more house way. So it's going to be like this. Something like that, right? So, firstly, we're kind of going to play chords now instead of arpeggios, right? Because house piano is very much chord-based, right? You want to play these chords with an interesting rhythm, right? Now, triads is a really great place to start with this. Right, so we're going to start with an F major triad, which is our first chord in this progression. In the right hand, you've literally just got an F major triad. Real simple. In the left hand, you've got a 1-5 chord, which is basically the triad without the third. See that? You can see it with the third, omit it, you get a 1-5 chord. And now you want to play it in a really striking manner, like this. You really want to get in there. That's house piano. House piano is really, the attack is really forward, right? It's like... So that's the first chord. Now, with the second section, there's two options for you. The first option is that you take this exact shape in the hands and you shift it across to play a G major triad, and then again to play an A minor triad, right? Notice how my hands are literally not even changing shape. This is an idea called shape shifting that I talk about in my course. If you want to check out my course, the link is below. It's completely free, okay? It's called shape shifting, where you have a shape in your hands and you literally like shift it across the keyboard to come up with all kinds of sounds. That's what we've got going on here, right? You're just shifting the shape. So that's option one. Option two is that the left hand is just going to go from this F straight up to the A, so it's going to skip the G, but the right hand is going to go up through the G as well. So this is what you get, right? You get this interesting chord in between. Listen to that. This is kind of like a jazzy neo-soul type chord. And yeah, that's a cool option I wanted to show you. I'm not exactly sure which it is in the song, but it doesn't really matter. Both have the same effect, right? Now, what's most important with this is actually the rhythm and the timing of these chords. So the first chord is played with over a whole bar plus an extra beat, right? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So the second chord comes in on the 2 of the second bar, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the last chord comes in on the and between beats 3 and 4 of the second bar. What does that mean? A bar is structured such that you have downbeats, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Between those downbeats, you have upbeats, which are called ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's what's happening with this third chord. It's happening on the and. 2, 3, 4. Right? Let me vocalize the whole bit so that you can get a sense of it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Right? The progression ends on an E minor. Right? We already looked at that. So yeah, that's the house section, right? And to finish it off, you could do something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Yeah, so that's another part that you could play. Yeah, okay. Now let's take a look at the third section. It's gonna be like this. Okay, so we're going to return to our arpeggio pattern, and first, actually, let's take a look at the chord progression. If you want to learn more about chord progressions, this is going to be quite interesting for you. So first, we start on this A minor chord, and then it actually goes to this chord here, which is a G major triad, but it's just got the third in the bass, okay? So this right hand here, this is a G major triad. All we're doing is we're taking the middle note, which is B, this third, and we're playing it down here. And it's a more open version of a triad, right? Right, so A minor, G major, and then that goes up to a C major, and then that goes down to our F major. Right, so that's the chord progression itself. Now, what we're going to use is the same arpeggio pattern that we already looked at, where you go like this, right? That's the A. Now with the next one, it's interesting. You kind of have to do this, right? So you've got the B, G, B, G. Okay, so it's not exactly the same, but it's similar. C, and then you're just riding out on the F. Okay, right hand starts with the A minor, and you're gonna do this. Right? What is that? That's... Okay, so first we start with this chord here. This is a C major triad in its second inversion. What that means is that you've got the 5th on the bottom. Okay, so that's regular C major triad. We're taking that 5th and putting it down an octave. So that's the first chord you play. And that's going to go down to a G major triad. And then that's going to go down to a C major triad in first inversion. Meaning that the 3rd's on the bottom. Right? If I put this note here, get root position. Right? So, right? So that bit together. And then you've got something like that, right? Over the F. And then as you're riding out on the F, we have kind of like the main melodic hook of the song, which goes like this. Right? E, B, C. A, B, C. Right? And so that's pretty much like most of the song. Those are most of the ingredients. Now, to finish off this tutorial, I just wanted to show you that you can kind of play around with this however you like. We've talked about a lot of different ideas in this tutorial. So yeah, just kind of experiment and have fun with it as Fred again would, right? I feel like experimentation and improvisation is at the foundation of Fred again's process. So if you want to kind of be like Fred again, make music like him, you gotta experiment. Just throw your fingers at this instrument, use the material we talked about in this episode. For example, shape shifting is a great one. You could explore that for days on end. Just take a shape and just like shift that up. Get sound, you get all these different chords, right? Again, I talk about that in the free course. Check that out. I'm here to help, okay? I've created an entire course for you. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.